Rudeus was feeling really sad because now his girlfriend Eris had left him. He decided to go on an adventure to find her mother Zenith. But he needed money for his journey, so he decided to join a group called Counter Arrow. This group had fighters like Suzanne and Patrice, a magician named Timothy, a healer named Mimir, and an archer named Sarah. Rudeus was a bit unsure about Sarah because she reminded him of Eris, and she didn't trust him either. They all went on a mission to fight some big bears called grizzlies, but things got really tough when they were surrounded by those bears. Rudeus saw how hard his new friends were fighting, and it gave him the strength to fight with them. And so, he defeated all the grizzlies with his fire magic. When they got back to town, they welcomed Rudeus into their group. He realized that he still had friends and family like Roxy who cared about him, even though Eris had left. So, he let go of the sad memories and burned Eris's hair that he had kept as a reminder. After a few months, Rudeus became pretty famous in the Basharant Kingdom because of all the cool stuff he did. He was hoping that his mom, Zenith, would hear about him and they could find each other again. One day, he joined a group called Counter Arrow to collect some special snow drake scales. But guess what? They got a big surprise when the snow drakes attacked them, and they accidentally ran into another group called Stepped Leader who were hunting the snow drakes too. Even though it was a bit of a mess, Counter Arrow managed to finish their mission and went back to a place called Rosenberg. Sarah, one of the people in the group, convinced Rudeus to join their party and celebrate their victory. But during the party, the leader of Stepped Leader, Soldat, got really upset and said some not-so-nice things about Rudeus because he thought Rudeus was hiding his true power. The next day, Rudeus found out something really sad. Mimir, one of his friends from Counter Arrow, had passed away, and Sarah had gone missing during a mission because of a big snowstorm. Rudeus decided to go to a place called Trier Forest to find them. He had to fight some tough snow buffaloes, but he found Mimir's remains and rescued Sarah from a scary icefall treant, which he thought was dead when he found her earring. After helping them, Sarah and the others thanked Rudeus, and he felt like they saved him and forgave him for something. He was really looking forward to a good night's sleep after all that adventure. Counter Arrow was having a big celebration because they finished a mission, and Rudeus was always hanging out with them since he saved Sarah. They even gave him a cool nickname, Quagmire. Sarah, who had become friends with Rudeus, asked for his help in buying a dagger. That made the other party members laugh a bit, but Rudeus said yes. They went on a little adventure to buy 2 daggers and then went to a place called a pub. Sarah had a bit too much to drink, so they went back to Rudeus's room because she wanted to. In Rudeus's room, something strange happened. Rudeus and Sarah were about to do lovey-dovey like grown-ups, but Rudeus thing didn't feel anything here, even though he really liked Sarah. After a while, Sarah got upset and left from there. Later, Rudeus was by himself, feeling really sad and asking for more drinks. That's when Soldat found him and started saying mean things to him like he always did. Rudeus got mad and hit Soldat with his fist, but Soldat didn't fight back. Soldat listened to Rudeus's story about Eris leaving him, and then he took Rudeus to a place called the Escort District. There, they meet a lady named Elise, who was thankful to Rudeus for healing her sister to get better last winter. Rudeus and Elise went back to see Soldat. Soldat told Rudeus something that was bothering him. He said Rudeus couldn't do certain things anymore, and that's called being impotent. Soldat gave Rudeus some advice. He said Rudeus should talk to Sarah and not rush into things. But Rudeus was still acting silly because he had too much to drink, and he said some mean stuff about Sarah, like he didn't think she was pretty. Oops. But guess what? Sarah was right nearby with Suzanne, and she heard everything. She got really mad and slapped Rudeus. She even threw the dagger they had bought earlier together, and said she never wanted to see him again. Suzanne scolded Rudeus too, and they walked away. Rudeus felt really sad and didn't know what to do, so he tried to kill himself with that dagger, but Soldat stopped him immediately. Soldat told Rudeus to go after Sarah and make things right, but Rudeus said he didn't care about anything anymore. Soldat then offered Rudeus a new adventure, to go to a place called the Nearest Kingdom. And Rudeus follows his instruction. Meanwhile, people were talking about Rudeus, and they heard he did something amazing by defeating a big red dragon. Elinali's Dragon Road wanted to know more about him, and so she found out that he was in Pippin, Basharant Kingdom. Rudeus spent the next 2 years going on adventures with Soldat's Stepped Leader party. They traveled to different towns and Rudeus did some amazing things, like defeating a huge red dragon all by himself. He didn't want to go back to Rosenberg because he knew if he did, Counter Arrow would keep him from his main goal. Then, in a city called Pippin, someone named Elinalise finally caught up with Rudeus. She told him that his dad, Paul, and his friend Roxy had gone on a long journey to a place called the Maze City of Rapan to find his mom, Zenith. It took them about a year to get there. Rudeus decided to stay in the Northlands until winter was over before going to Rapan himself. Later, Rudeus got a letter from a place called Renoa University of Magic. They wanted him to come and be a special student because he did some really cool stuff. Rudeus thought it sounded interesting, but he still wanted to find his mom first. That night, he had another dream where a human god named Hidegami told him to go to the university and look into something called the teleport incident. Hidegami said it would also help him to cure his impotent problem which Rudeus had. So, Rudeus decided to go to the university with Elinalise. By the way, Sylphy, Princess Ariel, and Zenoba were also students at the university. It looked like they were all going to have some exciting adventures there. Rudeus went to the university, where they wanted to see how good he was at using magic without making any incantation. He had a pretend fight with someone named Fitz, but he didn't know that Fitz was actually Sylphy in disguise. Rudeus won the fight, and they let him become a student along with Elinalise. Then, he went to listen to a speech by Ariel, who was the leader of the student council. After that, he went to his class where he saw his friend Zenoba again. He also met some other kids in his class like Linnea, Persina, and Cliff. Cliff said he knew Rudeus because of someone named Eris but hadn't seen her in a long time. Oh, and he found out that Fitz was in his class too, but she didn't come to class much. Rudeus had a little chat with Fitz, and then he met someone named Luke, who was also from the Grey Rat family, just like Rudeus. Later, as Rudeus was going back to his room, something funny happened. Fitz accidentally dropped Ariel's underwear out of a window, and Rudeus caught it. Some girl saw him with the underwear and thought he was a thief. The teacher wanted to punish him, but Fitz made her stop. Rudeus was really thankful to Fitz for helping him out, and Fitz decided to play a little joke on him by not telling him who she really was. Rudeus was starting to get used to his new life at the university. He was learning all sorts of magic and trying to figure out what caused the teleportation disaster with Fitz. But something strange was happening to him. He was beginning to like Fitz a lot, even though he thought Fitz was a boy. It was confusing. While all of this was happening, Rudeus was also helping his friend Zenoba learn how to make sculptures. It was a bit tough because Zenoba didn't have a lot of magic, but he was super strong. Then, Fitz came up with an idea. She thought they could find someone who could make sculptures for Zenoba to make things easier. So, Rudeus, Fitz, and Zenoba went to a place called a slave market. There, they met a young dwarf girl, who was very thin, so they decided to buy her after she said that she wanted to live, and they decided to call her Julie. After they bought her, Rudeus started teaching her magic and other important stuff while she helped Zenoba with his work. So, Sylphy was getting used to being back at school with Rudeus. But guess what? She started feeling something special for him, like having a crush. About a month later, Rudeus had been teaching Julie some basic magic tricks, and she was even learning how to do them without saying any special words. But there was something bothering Rudeus. He asked Zenoba about the sculpture he made of Roxy, and it turned out that in the past, Zenoba had lost a fight to Linnea and Persina, and they smashed the sculpture of Roxy. Rudeus got really mad about that because he loved Roxy a lot. So, Rudeus decided to teach Linnea and Persina a lesson. After the battle which he wins easily, he tied them up in his room for a while, and they got so scared that they had an accident. Rudeus had to clean up after them. Then, he talked to Fitz about how to make them learn a lesson without making them hate him. Fitz had a funny idea. They would make Linnea and Persina wear silly face markings for a day as a joke. After that, Linnea and Persina actually started to respect Rudeus because they found out he trained under Ghislaine, who was really strong. Rudeus also spent some time talking to Fitz. Later, Fitz thought about showing her face to Rudeus without sunglasses, but she changed her mind. One day, Cliff asked Rudeus for help to meet Elinalise because he had a big crush on her. Rudeus introduced them, but Elinalise told Rudeus a secret. She had a curse that said she had to be with different people, not just one. Rudeus told her to be honest with Cliff and say no, but the next day, he saw that they were actually dating. Cliff promised to find a way to break the curse. At school, some beast people thought Rudeus was like the leader of Linnea and Persina, and they wanted to marry them. But then, the big demon king Batagati appeared. He was engaged to someone named Kishirika, and he wanted to fight Rudeus because Kishirika had said nice things about him. So, Rudeus and Batagati started their battle, but there was a rule, that Rudeus had to hit him really hard with one move, or else Batagati would win the fight. Rudeus used a super strong magic attack that looked like a spinning arrow made of stone, and he shot that thing at Batagati. He won the battle right away because he hurt Batagati with his first move. After that, Batagati decided not to fight anymore. When winter came, Rudeus and his friends were totally surprised because Batagati joined their school and was in their class. It was a big, unexpected surprise. Fitz had a secret, and she was really unsure if she should tell Rudeus. She was worried that he had forgotten about her. At that time Ariel told her it was okay to tell Rudeus the truth. Meanwhile, Rudeus was studying about something called teleportation, which was kind of like summoning magic. Fitz thought he should talk to a specialist in summoning magic. So, they went to see Silent Seven Star. But when they met this specialist, Rudeus was really shocked after seeing the person. She was someone he knew from a long time ago. Just thinking about what happened back at that time scared him so much that he fainted. Fitz brought Rudeus back, and that girl asked him about two names from their previous world, Shinohara Akito and Kuroki Satoshi. Rudeus didn't know those names, and then he realized that she was also from Japan. She took off her mask and told them her real name, Nanahoshi Shizuka. Rudeus thought she looked like a high school girl he had tried to save. But here's the thing, Nanahoshi wanted to go back to the previous world, and Rudeus wanted to stay in this fantasy world. She had been here for 5 years but didn't age at all. Orsted, a powerful guy, had taken care of her and taught her summoning magic. She couldn't do magic herself, but she knew a lot about it. So, they made a deal. Rudeus would help her with her magic experiments, and she would teach him about teleportation. She also tells that the big teleportation mess was because of her summoning. And upon hearing this, Fitz got really mad and started to attack Nanahoshi with her magic, but because of the ring given by Orsted, nobody could hurt her. On their way home, Fitz was happy to hear that Rudeus didn't have any special feelings for Nanahoshi, but she still couldn't decide if she should tell Rudeus the truth about herself. Fitz was still feeling a bit jealous because Rudeus was spending a lot of time helping Nanahoshi with her experiments. But she was too scared to tell Rudeus who she really was. A whole year went by, and Rudeus was doing really well at the university. People thought he was amazing because he had beaten Fitz, Linnea, Persina, and Batagati. They even wanted him to be their leader, but he said no. Then, Soldat invited him to a family get-together. After that, he said goodbye to his friends Elinalise and Cliff, who were going on adventures. Rudeus bumped into Fitz occasionally in town and later at the library. And something strange happened. Rudeus realized he had special feelings for Fitz, and he started to wonder if Fitz was really a boy. One day in the library, Fitz accidentally fell on top of Rudeus, and he found out that she was actually a girl. Fitz got really embarrassed and ran away. Rudeus also realized that, for a short time, something strange had happened to his Pippi. Now that he knew the truth about Fitz and he thought that she could help him cure with his thing, Rudeus decided to start a special relationship with her. So, now that Rudeus knew Fitz's secret, Ariel thought it was a good idea for Fitz to tell Rudeus who she really was. But Fitz wasn't sure if Rudeus remembered her as Sylphy. That's when Ariel and Luke came up with a plan to help Rudeus remember. Later we see that Fitz asked Rudeus to join her in a snowy forest to find a very special flower which Princess Ariel wanted, even though it was winter. Rudeus agreed, and they went into the snowy forest. But then, Fitz used her magical ring to make it rain, and they both got all wet. Luckily, they found a cozy cave to take shelter in. Rudeus knew they had to get out of their wet clothes to stay warm, so he asked Fitz to do it. But Fitz wanted Rudeus to help her take off her clothes instead. Rudeus helped, and when he saw her, he remembered that she was actually Sylphy, his friend from Buena Village. Fitz was so happy that they were back together, and she told Rudeus that she loved him and wanted to be with him forever. Rudeus told Sylphy that he loved her, but he had a problem that made it hard for them to be together in a special way. It was called impotence, and it meant they couldn't do sweet, romantic lovey-dovey things together. Sylphy talked to Ariel and Luke about Rudeus's problem, and they felt really sorry for him. Luke gave Sylphy some special medicine that could help Rudeus, and Ariel gave her advice on how to make Rudeus feel loved. That night, Sylphy brought the medicine from Luke, along with alcohol and snacks. Both Rudeus and Sylphy took the medicine, and it made them feel even closer to each other. The next morning, Rudeus woke up and saw that they had a really nice lovey-dovey night. We also see that Sylphy come back to greet him, and that she didn't leave like Eris did, which makes Rudeus really happy about it. The best part was that his problem was gone, and he was all better now. Rudeus said thank you to Ariel for helping him, and then he did something really special. He asked Sylphy if she would marry him, and she said yes. Ariel told Sylphy that she didn't have to pretend to be someone else anymore and could just be herself. They all felt so happy and close to each other.